Hello, I'm Paul Beckwith, and I'm at the COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. And I thought I would just give you a very maybe boring video to some people, but that people really want to know what's the COP, what's going on, why do we get so many people going to it, what does it accomplish? And I'm going to sort of talk about this as I wander through the COP from one section to another section, just to give you a better feel on what's going on. So Charles just held the camera there for me, and now I'm just going to kind of motor along here and just give you, it's about 8 o'clock p.m. local time, so things are winding up, so there's fewer people here. I mean, these hallways were absolutely packed with people earlier on in the day, and in fact, the temperature went up to, it was super warm. It was like 27 degrees Celsius, 67% humidity. And I know, I know the CO2 level inside this COP. And actually, I have a device that I carry around. This is a map sort of the layout and lots of things going on. So I have a device, and I've been measuring CO2 levels real time for the whole day with this device. And levels are consistently over 2,000 parts per million. Now, CO2 in the atmosphere is 420 nominally, right? 420 parts per million. So multiply those levels by 5. That's the levels that the conference participants have been subject to most of the day. I should point out that some studies, health studies, show that when CO2 goes over about 800 parts per million, you start to get some cognitive effects, measurable decline of cognition of people, of ability to make decisions, etc. So maybe that's one of the problems why we can't solve the climate issues or make headway, is because we have these big conferences, and if the CO2 levels are too high, if indoor ventilation is not sufficient, then people's cognition is impaired, and therefore we can't come to meaningful climate action and decisions. So anyway, we're moving through here. I hope you're getting some sort of feel. Yes, so this is my favorite pavilion here. Okay, this is the Cryosphere pavilion, and there's loads of boards with data. I usually I'll take pictures of these boards and post them in social media, maybe on my Facebook, and tweet some of them out, etc. But anyway, this is I've already attended some talks at this pavilion, specifically on ice on Canadian lakes, ice roads, because a lot of remote communities are not connected by permanent roads, so they build ice roads in the winter, and they transport everything they need for the whole year over those few months when there's ice roads. Now, ice roads you used to be able to build them in January, and they would last, as you could have heavy trucks going along these roads from January through to end of March, early April, even later. But now, with global warming and climate change, some of these ice road durations are getting lower and lower and lower, such that they won't be feasible much in the future. So it was all about the physics of that. And there was another talk on the amount of methane specifically in the water underneath glaciers. So as glaciers are melting, the water underneath drains out underneath the glacier into the ocean, and that water can have high methane concentrations. So I went to a session where there were a bunch of early career researchers who were talking about how they measure methane both in the water underneath the glaciers and also in the air pockets above that water underneath the glaciers. And interestingly, just recent research shows that there's lots of water trapped underneath the ice sheets on Greenland. And this water actually remains water throughout the winter. It doesn't freeze up because the pressure of the ice on it, etc. It's the insulation of the ice. So, this needs to be looked at, because it probably means that melt rates of Greenland are going to be much higher than expected. So you can see, this is Qatar, the booth, and we've got the Russian Federation over here. And I've been to a few other, I've mostly wandered around today. I mean, there's just so much here that, trying to get my bearings of where things are. I mean, you have to know where the washrooms are. You have to know where the free coffee is, because prices of food are very expensive in this venue. At least double, maybe triple what they are outside of the COP. And I mentioned accommodation was an issue that's happening with many people are finding out that they're about to arrive at the COP and they find their accommodation has been canceled. And I think the reason for that happening is the people offering the accommodations realize that if they cancel somebody, they can then jack the price up double and find somebody to take that place. And I think, this is a problem, I think. I'm hearing all kinds of horror stories about this sort of thing happening. And I've heard that, some of the hotels and stuff, in order to stay at the hotels anywhere near the COP, people are spending up to $500 or $600 US to stay at a room for, there's just not the availability, and there's price gouging and stuff like that. So that's why, accommodation is such a big issue. And I was very lucky because Charles and Heidi, there's a pull-out sofa bed, and it's much better for us all to be together, because we can do things a lot more efficiently for the Climate Emergency Forum channel and also for myself. And okay, so this is the Ocean Pavilion. I think the Cryosphere is my favorite, or always has been, but I think maybe the Ocean it's a very close second. It may even surpass the Cryosphere in terms of my favorite pavilion. So we'll just have a look at some of the boards and so on here. So it's, they've got a nice section, and I attended a talk that was moderated by Sean Fitzgerald from the Cambridge Climate Repair Centre in the UK, and it was a really good session on OCDR, ocean carbon dioxide removal. So it was, it was excellent. And then after that session, I went to a session all about solar radiation management. So, those are some of the key things I think that we're going to need to get out of this climate mess. It's, some people have completely given up and think we can't do anything. So one of the questions, so after the SRM session, I then had a full half-hour interview with Sean Fitzgerald, and that will be posted on the Climate Emergency Forum, climateemergencyforum.org, the YouTube channel for CEF, and I think that will be posted maybe even tonight on that, which is the evening of the first day of COP, November 11th. The reason, this place is packed during the day. Again, I should emphasize that it's about 8:30 local time. People have had a long day, and things are winding down, but it means that I can film this video, and you can hear what I'm saying, and I'm not tripping over things or bumping into people. This doesn't look too interesting down there. So let's see. Some of the I don't know if I could find the Canada Pavilion, but I think I'm going into the cheap seats, I think, with some of these pavilions. You can see a huge difference. Some pavilions go all out, big countries, whereas other NGOs in smaller countries have smaller booths, depending on depending on their needs, I guess. So we've got Africa here, and back to the Charles and Heidi there, working busily, being on my video. We're meeting Sean Fitzgerald soon, and Heidi and Charles and I discovered this pub called the London Pub. So after Sean's speaking with the BBC, and then he'll come by the Ocean Pavilion and meet us, and then we'll take a cab to this place we were at yesterday, the British pub, basically. And it's great. They have all these old photos of the Beatles and of the classic British red telephone booth, etc. Right? So also excellent waitresses, waiters, excellent service, really good food. So it's got everything. It's perfect. It's good eating British pub food in Baku. So I'll just continue a little bit more. I guess these are some booths. It's basically government, it's NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and then it's specific topics like the cryosphere, the oceans, forestry, the Brazilian rainforest, right? The Arctic, the Antarctic, there's some separate stuff on this. This is the Georgia, and we've got the Pacific Pavilion. So this is kind of how the COP is set up. Now, I just want to address some of the naysayers who say, Beckwith, what the heck are you flying long haul, burning all this jet fuel? There is the Canada Pavilion. Okay, so earlier today, Stephen Guilbeault, who's Canada's Environment Minister, was giving a talk in here, and I just caught the end of the talk and then waited around. People were talking to him, and then I went up and I talked to him about the 1.5. The 1.5 target we've motored past already. So why is the UN still talking about it? So we talked a little bit about that, and I also had my CO2 device, and I told them right now the levels in this room of CO2 are about 5 times that of the atmosphere, and that degrades cognition, and maybe that's why people can't come to a good a good result from these climate conferences. I don't know. So one of the things that this meeting does that no other thing can do is the face-to-face meeting of people with of myself, and anybody attending this has face-to-face meetings with people from countries around the world to get their perspectives, to find out how climate change is affecting their countries and things like that. So, I think it's you have to, and also look, if you calculate the carbon emissions from a meeting, it might seem huge, but it's just like a small drop in the bucket compared to what's happening. I mean, climate deniers love to, climate deniers, if they're not in such denial mode, they just attack people. They attack anybody trying to address climate change, saying, yeah, well, you drive a car and you use energy, you heat your house, etc. Right? And this is absurdly ridiculous because, and the whole idea of a carbon footprint for an individual, guess who came up with that idea? It was the fossil fuel companies. So, this is a huge global problem. We need governments to have global agreements. We need to rein in fossil fuel emissions. Subsidies have increased by a factor of at least 3 in the last few years for fossil fuels, right? And the curves are bending upwards for greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and we need to bend them downwards. So, you can't accuse one person can't do it alone, right? We need global agreements. We need global policy. So one really bright thing is that solar power is accelerating at unbelievable rates. So every 3 years, roughly, we're doubling solar energy capacity. So in 6 years, it's 4 times higher. And in 9 years, it's 8 times higher. In about a decade, we're having 10 times more solar power capacity. And if this rate continues, then I think I tweeted out the facts. Basically, solar power will surpass nuclear in 2026. It'll surpass wind power in 2027 or 2028. It'll displace natural gas 2030. By 2035 or so, 2040, we'll get more energy from solar power than everything else combined. I mean, the numbers are staggering. So if this plays out, then we're going to, have a chance at halting, slowing, halting, and then reversing. But I think we really need the carbon dioxide removal. We really need solar radiation management to buy us time to make these emissions cuts, and not sacrifice all the benefits that we have from a modernized civilization. Okay, well, there's Heidi and Charles, and Sean will be here in a minute. And I could walk around here for hours, but my arm is getting tired. So I want to just thank you for, I'm very happy to be able to bring you sort of a taste of what the COP is like via these videos. So thanks for listening, and thanks for listening, and bye for now.